Welcome to a Thanksgiving week spectacular edition of Power Rankings with DanHanzus, the old Zeus, author of the 1 through 32 that you consume on all levels of NFL media, social media, NFL.com, and right here on our proud Power Rankings show. And kudos to him because he is cashing in this week. Once we get out of Thanksgiving, guess what? The man that owns the rights to the publishing for Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer starts cashing checks.
Free
as the
money.
holiday season is upon us. That's right. Free money for the DanHanzus. All right, Dan.
Mailbox money, they call it.
Let's get to it. I assume we have a new number one based on the results from this past week. And yes, ascending once again to the top spot where they have been so many weeks in the power rankings. It is the Arizona Cardinals as the Packers lost to the Vikings. However, it only cost them a single spot. However, let's start with that number 4 squad. Because it wasn't too long ago, Dan, that we were asking the question as to whether or not they were even going to be part of this playoff conversation. And now they are top 5. The Chiefs, all the way up inside that top 5, a power team in power ranking.
And just like a special thank you real quick to the Cardinals. In a chaotic year, a chaotic season in the NFL, if you do power rankings exercises, that the Cardinals are here to say, we're going to win most weeks, and you can count on us. Even sometimes when our quarterback's out. Thank you, Arizona Cardinals. Now, the Chiefs.
The Chiefs.
That was a nice win. To beat the Cowboys after having a really great offensive performance the previous week, to have your defense step up. Chris Jones, 3.5 sacks. And I know the Chiefs' offense is still something that you're looking for that consistency. They had, I believe, a field goal on their final 10 possessions at Arrowhead. But they scored early in the game, and then the defense closed it out. I thought that was the most impressive aspect of the victory, and that's why I have them moving all the way up to 4, and I have them all the way now as the number 1 team in the AFC, because I feel like, Money, the Chiefs have come to restore order in the chaotic AFC. Now they're going to prove me wrong, but we'll see.
Yeah, that's what happens every week. Look, Dan puts you number 1. Get ready. Here comes the loss.
Oh, boy.
Right down the pike.
It's a thing now, by the way. It's a curse.
So here we go, Dan. And by the way, that's P-I-K-E. It's down the pike. It's not down the pipe. It's down the turnpike. That's what we're talking about. It's traveling. All right, let's get to the Chiefs and that defense. And remember, this was one of the worst units in the league. Like, it was the worst defense in the league. Look at this. Weeks 1 through 7, nearly 30 points, over 400 yards. Quarterbacks, 100-plus passer rating, converting almost half of their third downs. These were historically bad numbers, and now you see on this 4-game win streak, okay, yeah, we've cut our points allowed by 2/3. Total yards by 100. And in that game, 2 interceptions, 2 fumbles, 1 lost. They had Dak with his lowest passer rating ever since September of 2018 versus Seattle. And this was the most explosive offense in the league. And I get it. And we're going to talk about the Cowboys in a second. Yes, they're down players, but you can only play the team that's on the field with you that day. And this defense thoroughly dominant. And this is something we've seen from Steve Spagnuolo. His defenses tend to get better as the season progresses. And this may have been one of the best efforts we've seen yet. And I really like the way, just to quickly kind of put a button on it, when they're stacking, because I see it a lot with Joey Bosa when they did it with Melvin Ingram, where they would stack them on the same side of the line, and it was just a nightmare for teams. They had Clark and Jones next to each other. So now that he's back and healthy, man, that is a formidable front to contend with. And, man, they certainly showed off in that game against the Cowboys.
And the thing is, and we talk about this on the Around the NFL podcast, it doesn't feel like there's any – there was a plug. Any elite defenses in the league that you could trust from September through February. But if you can just have a defense that gets hot for a month, that can carry you when you're trying to figure things out on the other side of the ball, and then gives you consistent week-to-week effort otherwise, you'll take that. I think that's what the Chiefs are.
Yeah, 5 sacks, 5 tackles for loss, 8 quarterback hits in that game. And that brings us to the other sideline and the Cowboys that were streaking. It felt like, after that Broncos game, okay, hiccup, we believe this is one of the elite teams, and now we're asking some questions about them again, Dan.
Yeah, when they got wiped out by the Broncos at home, that felt like a total anomaly. Weird, And then they go and they destroy the Falcons the next week, and you're like, okay, everything's back under control. But then this game happens, and then you take a step back and you say, okay, Dak was an MVP-level stud. He hurts his calf. He misses a couple weeks. He comes back, and now in 2 of 3 weeks, he hasn't quite been himself. I thought it was on the first play from scrimmage, and I think this is it right here. It's not. I blew it. But Michael Gallup flashes down the right sideline. He's open. It could be a walk-in touchdown potentially. He overshoots him, and those splash plays are missing. Now, it doesn't help that Amari Cooper didn't get vaccinated and is now going to miss 2 straight games. It doesn't help that CeeDee Lamb suffered a head injury. Okay, nailed that, but you don't want to celebrate something like that. Still not really nailing it right now, Money. You want those
plenty of show left.
You want those guys on the field, so Dak needs more help. But yeah, it's something to keep an eye on now. The Cowboys are slumping a little bit.
So to me, it's like 3 things, right? You already talked about the receivers, but for me, it's the offensive line. Since Tyron Smith's been out, it's just been a completely different Dak. And I think, look, they got that spell with the Falcons and just absolutely torched them in that contest. But that's a long-term issue. If he is not right, and we saw this early in the season with the Cowboys when Zach Martin wasn't right, and we're like, all right, what's going on with Zeke? Why is Zeke not performing at the level we expect? Well, then you get one of the best interior linemen in the league back, and all of a sudden Zeke and Pollard are running effectively. So to me, this team is offensive line dependent, perhaps more than any other squad in the league. So the fact that they are down guys and other players are banged up is a big deal. Now let's go to the positive, and that's this is what's going to happen by the end of the year, okay? Micah Parsons was the 12th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft. There were 4 quarterbacks taken in front of him, so you take those off the board. 7 players are going to be discussed that were taken ahead of Micah Parsons, and the question will be asked, why were they taken ahead of Micah Parsons? Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, Jamar Chase, Kyle Pitts, J.C. Horn, Pat Surtain, and Penei Sewell.
I mean, those are some great rookies, by the way.
They are.
Yeah.
He may not just be, he's already the Defensive Rookie of the Year. He's going to end up in the conversation as Defensive Player of the Year. That is a force. He has become a complete and total force of nature out there on the field. He can't be stopped on the edge. He is so fast. He's got so much bend. And I think it's changed this Dallas defense dramatically for Dan Quinn.
He's a superstar. I mean, and Trayvon Diggs has made a lot of splash plays in the secondary, but the most important player has been Micah Parsons. And yeah, when you talk about the fact that Kansas City only had 3 points in their last 10 drives, it's because Parsons was just wrecking the game.
Yeah, completely wrecking the game. What did he have in that? 2 sacks, a forced fumble, a ton of quarterback hits. He has been, again, not just the best defensive rookie, but one of the best defensive players in the league. And that brings us to Thursday. Part of our Thanksgiving schedule, Dan, is going to be Cowboys, Raiders. How about that? And the Raiders, oh, boy. Here we go again.
You know, we were all wrong. We were all, the Raiders are going to fade again in December. They did it in November this year.
That's some serious snark from DanHanzus.
Smith. It's true, though. And, you talk about crossroads games. The Raiders need to win. They need to find a way to win on Thursday night. Because if they did in that spot against this opponent, it would reset their season, and they'd be able to enter December as a team that has a chance in the AFC, wide open in that wild card race, even in the division if you get a win here. But if you lose, you start to get the feeling the wheels are ready to come off. And, you know, everything about the Henry Ruggs situation is tragic. But when you just talk about the on-field difference that it's made, I think you really can tell Ruggs, who is a really dynamic downfield presence that was gaining chemistry with Derek Carr, you take that out of the mix, and they just seem, everything feels condensed since that Week 8 bye. The Raiders have not been the same team on offense.
You know, I go back to, and a lot of people will point out that I'm just being snarky and a hater here, but I go back to what Joey Bosa said, and he took some incoming for the comments about Derek Carr. He said, look, we play him enough, and I've played him enough to know if you can heat him up early, you can set the tone for the rest of the game. And I think you look at this 3-game losing streak and this team that had an offense that was being celebrated, and Derek Carr is different, and he's pushing the ball down the field. Well, what has happened? He's getting some heat, and he's getting it early. And we've talked about the Bengals and how good that defensive front is, and they got to him, and it affected the game. And that has now been Derek Carr for these 3 losses in a row where he's throwing picks, he's losing fumbles. They are game-defining turnovers, and they're going to have to clean it up if they're going to have any shot in this game, because guess what? The guy we just talked about, Micah Parsons, is going to be lined up opposite Alex Leather. Well, he's been kicked inside, but he's going to be lined up opposite Derek Carr, and he's going to create some serious matchup nightmares. It's a shame. I was excited about the story of Bisaccia taking over, and maybe this team rallying around each other after that first win, and it has just fallen apart here these last 3 weeks. You know what? It's okay. I think I might get over the Raiders not being great this year. Thanksgiving Day, though, as it is tradition in this nation of ours, where we have a heck of an opportunity to watch football all day. We are excited about Raiders.
Sure do love
it. Absolutely, and Cowboys. Let's get to the Patriots.
All right, so this is a problem. This is a problem now, okay? Full disclosure, Jets fan, dealt with it for 20 years. It was a nightmare with Tom Brady and Belichick. And now they went and they had a down season in 2020. They get Mac Jones. They get the defense figured out. Kai's come back from the COVID layoff. And now the Patriots are not just a nice story. And this pains me to say. The Patriots are a extremely well-coached, defensively gifted team with a young quarterback that knows how to lead an offense to enough points to survive. And when you look at the conference that they play in, and this is where it gets scary, Matt Money Smith, there's nobody that can stop the Patriots from going as deep as they can in the playoffs because they can beat anybody. There's nobody that can step up and say, oh, well, the Patriots are a nice story, but they're going to be wiped out by Team X. No, the Patriots have a chance to go on a run here. Ugh.
I said this last week, and I feel like you rolled your eyes, and it very well may have been your bias from many years past, but I said...
Zero bias.
One, I said, I think they're going to win the AFC East. I believe they're the best team in the AFC East. And I said, two, I think the defense is the best unit in football. I believe of all, if you want to take any offense or any defense, I believe right now the Patriots defense is the best unit in football, and that is going to play anywhere. It'll play anywhere against any team. Their last 3 games, they are allowing an average of 4.3 points per game. They are number 1 in points allowed. They are number 3 in yards allowed overall.
Can we check their opponents?
They are +6. You can only play the teams on your schedule.
I know, but before you go saying this is the best unit in the whole league.
Then give me the defense that's better.
I'm talking about, you said both sides of the ball.
Okay, give me an offense that you would take against the Patriots defense.
I would take the Chiefs offense. I would take the Buffalo Bills offense over the Patriots.
Patrick Mahomes just threw 0 touchdowns and an interception against the Cowboys defense.
You're not going to believe this, but I still think Patrick Mahomes...
You would take that offense that has struggled all year, except for one game against the Raiders.
I just said that the Patriots, like it or not, are a legitimate AFC contender.
Who's living in the past?
But I think maybe you're getting a little overexcited. When you look at their schedule, I'd like to see them against a better opponent in a big spot. And we're going to see it when you look at their upcoming schedule.
Yeah, they're going to play the Bills twice. And there is a legitimate look. That's what will decide the AFC East, and I believe it will be decided in the favor of the New England Patriots. As much as it pains you, DanHanzus,
I don't like it.
That you had but a year reprieve of this.
Just 1 year. That's all you get.
Let's get to those Bills. Let's get to those Bills and that offense you would take over the Patriots defense.
I would in a big spot in a head-to-head matchup, but at the same time,
get it.
I am not. That's also understanding that yes, they're not playing well. The Bills are not playing well in offense. And I said on this program, Money, last week that, yes, after they stopped the Jets, who were on a historically terrible defensive run, people were a little too quick to say, all right, Buffalo's fixed. No, man, they were not fixed against Indy. They look soft. They look weak. They got just run out of their own building by the Colts. So there are problems here. And the Patriots have a chance now to catch the Bills at a time where it's fair to wonder, are they going to figure it out? Is this Brian Daboll offense ever going to get it figured out? Because there has been a sustained run of average play now.
So, are they in trouble? Yes, because we thought that they might win a Super Bowl this year, and that Josh Allen might be an MVP this year. That's the level that we held the Bills to. So the fact that they are no longer in first place in their division, look, you said it, the AFC is a mess, right? So then what are we talking about? We're talking about tiebreakers, and all 4 of their losses are in conference. And that means that instead of being the number 1 wild card, you very well could be the number 3 wild card, which is where they're sitting right now, the very last position in the playoff race. And I think that is disconcerting. Josh Allen, 4 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 7 sacks in his last 3 games. That's an issue. Because he is getting the Patrick Mahomes treatment. And for whatever reason, we're not holding him to the same sort of standard that we are Patrick Mahomes. And he's not beating it. They're running 2 highs, and he is struggling to take those checkdowns. And it's really affecting the way he's playing. So, yes, I am concerned about the Buffalo Bills.
Monday Night Football, Week 13, at Orchard Park, Patriots-Bills.
There it is.
Could decide the division.
It'll be settled. I mentioned it earlier.
Look at this.
We got Good Morning Football, 7 a.m. Game day morning, 10 a.m. Total access after Chicago, Detroit, and then again after Vegas, Dallas, and then again after Buffalo,
How about
New Orleans.
We're doing Around the NFL podcast Thanksgiving recap. Why don't we slide that into the schedule?
Free plug.
TAs.
Free plug.
That's
Dan's
two.
getting his free plugs. Two in the opening segment when we return. How about Cam Newton's return? Sure, it did not result in a win, but we'll tell you how you can celebrate Superman being back on the field in Charlotte. And Cynthia Freeland going to be along to take the old Zeuser to task for a couple of his rankings. Should the Pack be number one? Are they too high? Are they too low? Find out next when Cynthia joins us on Power Rangers.
It's about us today. Ain't about nobody else. It's about us. We're going to go earn out. We're going to strap for us. We're going to fight for us. We all come together and play as one, man. The best you got. Very best on Sunday. Let's go. Let's get it. Keys to the game from Kevin Hart. Fly, even fly. It's easy. Yeah, it's easy. Your boy's great. Let's go. Arizona all the way. We out here, man. That's what we're about right there. Nice shot. There it is. Good shot.
Here we go, second quadrant of DanHanzus power rankings, 9 through 16. You see some movers in there. Down 3, the Ravens, even though they got a victory in Chicago with a backup quarterback. And as we have now shared our 1 through 16, it brings us to power moves, presented by the long-lasting power of Energizer. And for that, we bring in the premier predictive analyst in all the land, her muse, Math. Her outfit, autumnal and green. Cable knit sweaters this Thanksgiving week on Cynthia Freeland. Cynthia, you always get us started with perhaps an issue or a compliment for DanHanzus and what you discovered through Math in his power rankings. What do you got?
Well, I'm wearing this green shirt because I think maybe you have the Packers ranked a little bit too high. They have too many injuries to be number 2. I mean, you saw last week against the Vikings, they really couldn't stop Dalvin Cook. And then you add that Jair Alexander's still not playing. Of course, now you have Rashawn Gary out. That makes a big difference. And then on the other side of the ball, we just saw that David Bakhtiari won't be playing this week in a really key matchup. And you're missing Aaron Jones. So 2 is super high with all these injuries. Dan, explain yourself.
Well, you have to explain to me. So you wore the green color for the Packers because you disagree with me having them too high in the power rankings?
I wore the green because I look good in green.
Ah, there you go. And you do, Cynthia. Yeah, the Packers, I get it. You could make a case that they should be behind the Bucs or even the Chiefs. But ultimately, I thought that they played pretty well. I think the Vikings were such a tough opponent, and they hung with them tough, and they were in position to win that game. They get beat on a last-second field goal. The loss of Jenkins on the offensive line, that hurts. Bakhtiari, what's happening with him and his injury status, which is that's a big question mark. But I still think that this is a powerhouse in the NFC, even coming off a loss. So it was kind of like a bit of a statement, Cynthia, from the old Zeuser here, DanHanzus, that, yeah, you could lose, but I can still see you. Nicknames. I could still see you as a top 2 power rankings team. That's respect to the Packers.
And as you can tell, Cynthia, I believe I look smashing in print. I agree with you. I think they're too high. And look, I've done a lot of patting myself on the back already on this show, and I'm going to keep it going. This is the exact discussion we had last week about the Packers. That defense is banged up. The offensive line is banged up, and that is my great concern. And I agree with you because, Dan, if the playoffs were to start today, I don't think I'd have the Packers coming out of the NFC. I feel a little bit stronger about the Bucs moving forward, even though they weren't spectacular last night. I just feel like that's the better team. If these two teams meet up, I have more faith in the Bucs. Hence, I'd have them ranked a little bit higher.
But I just want to say I like your shirt a lot.
Thank you.
I would take it one button down, let that peck lettuce out a little bit.
That's right, I can.
Yeah, let that peck lettuce out.
Wow, look at this. There we go.
That's a new term I've come up with on the fly here.
Let's get it. There we go.
All right, I regret it, but it's too late now to go back.
It's too late. Rest of the show. Here we are. Cynthia, what else you got for us?
Well, after all of that, I'm actually going to compliment Dan on his placement of the Bucs. I think number 3 is exactly right. You did it. You nailed it with this one. Why? I think maybe you have the Chiefs in the wrong spot, but I'm not going to talk about that one. But I do think that you saw last night against the Giants. I mean, Tom Brady just took over. This offense is really hard to stop. And as the defense gets increasingly healthy, you're going to have a really hard time stopping the Bucs, and they've got a favorable schedule. So I really think this one, chef's kiss.
Ah, beautiful. I love when you say that, Cynthia. And yeah, I like the way, and this reminded me of their 6-1 start. I know they hit a little bump in the road, but how the Bucs and their title defense just kind of take care of business. The Giants came to town. That's an inferior team, and they just took it to them. Brady throws for 300 yards for the 5th time in 10 games. 3 players go over 65 yards receiving. I think 6 players had at least 4 catches, so Brady spread the ball around, and the defense got the big stops. Tampa's just a really solid team.
See, Cynthia, I would simply say he didn't get it just right. They should be one higher. You should just flip spots between the Packers and the Bucs.
We're going to relitigate the Packers again?
I'm just saying, if she's saying that they're just right, then she's got to place a team in the number 2 slot where the Packers are too high. You're putting the Chiefs. So there you go. Cynthia believes the Chiefs would then man that spot. I think the Bucs are the number 2 team. And look, their secondary is still ravaged, but it's starting to get better. You know, you have Whitehead out there, you have Winfield out there. It looked a little bit better, like the front and the back end were connected. The one thing that was interesting is they barely ran the ball last night. I thought maybe they would be a little bit more balanced, but before I wrap on my position that the Bucs are the number 2 team in all the land, I would simply add this. And you know what? Now that I think about it, I think you're right. I think you're right, Cynthia. I think the Patriots are my number 2 team in the league. So you're absolutely right that they're absolutely right at number 3, right?
You nailed that.
How about that?
Say.
How about that sizzling take right there?
You still here, Cynthia?
I saw you purse your lips, Cynthia. I'm just working these things out in the moment. All right, enough of that. Oh, tip of the cap to Mike Evans. Became the Bucs' all-time touchdown leader in franchise history last night, breaking a tie with Mike.
He's a good little player.
There you go. Cynthia, fantasy.
Well, I'm glad that I wonder if he kept that ball or if he gave it away. Either way, here's 5 fantasy options for you. Dan Arnold, if you need a tight end, which everyone does, I think this is a good matchup. Darnell Mooney against the Lions, you're going to want to target that one. Elijah Moore against the Texans. We saw him have yet another breakout game last week. That continues against this Texans secondary that's susceptible. A.J. Dillon versus the Rams. And, of course, Cam Newton, he's back against the Dolphins.
I'll go because we don't really get a chance to talk about the Jets on the show too often. I will pound the table for Elijah Moore. I was thinking about when's the last time they had a playmaker that really excited me like this. Maybe Santana Moss. He really does make all the plays. He's getting better each week. And if you look at the 2021 Jets draft class, there's some talent that came out of there. It all hinges on Zach Wilson ultimately, but the picks behind him all look pretty good by Joe Douglas.
Big Elijah Moore fan. And I would also like to focus on Cam Newton, Cynthia. And I don't think it's very hard, especially coming off the week that he just had, right? 40-plus yards rushing, a rushing touchdown, 2 through the air. He played well enough to get the win. Unfortunately, Taylor Heinicke just played a little bit better. But I like that Dolphins defense. I think it will present more problems than the Washington football team's defense did. But when you got Patrick Mahomes on a bye, maybe Cam Newton's still available in your league. I absolutely would scoop him up and plug him if you're dealing with some quarterback issues this week. Love it, Cynthia. Appreciate it. And appreciate the green sweater in honor of the Packers being ranked too high by the DanHanzus.
It was weird.
The old Zeuser, as he wanted to use both nicknames when referring to himself. Make sure you follow her on social media. I'm sure she'll make fools of us all with what she does in her Thanksgiving meal preparation. And, of course, NFL.com/Freeland for all of that fancy making sense.
Thanksgiving, Cindy.
Of the NFL world. Here we go. Your third quadrant, led by the Eagles. 17.
Nailed it.
Raiders down 2. Who nailed it?
The old Zeuser.
Who else nailed it?
Tugboat.
And?
DanHanzus.
Oh, let's make sure we get them all in there. When we return, we may focus on one of those squads we just mentioned, and also a little player pushback on our man Jonathan Taylor and these Colts. They are on a heck of a streak. We'll dig into it.
Taylor, Swift. That is excellent.
Clever. Very clever. We are back on Power Rankings, presented by the long-lasting power of Energizer.
Still going.
And you know who's no longer going?
All these teams.
Jason Garrett.
Oh, they got him.
Yeah. Somebody had to pay for a national broadcast effort of futility like last night.
You know, I think
Jason Garrett.
It's Baldy's tweet this morning. He tweeted out a horrible offensive play.
Well,
hey, Jason Garrett.
Got to take inventories. Daniel Jones, the guy. And if Jason Garrett isn't the play caller to figure out if that guy is the guy, then you better get a different guy in there to sort out if that guy is the guy. You know what I mean?
I do not disagree. Actually,
player pushback. You know who's the guy?
Everything
Mooch and David Carr.
Thanks, Money. Mooch, you and I have looked at this list, and we have some thoughts. What stood out to you? We have some thoughts already,
Yes.
you know, and I'm just going to go right to the top, Dave.
Just do it.
Because when you talk about the Arizona Cardinals with the best record in football at 9-2, all right, you know, they should be on the top of the list because your record says, you know, who you are, right? But you know what? The most important position in football, obviously, is the quarterback. But I think the second most important position is your backup quarterback.
Yeah.
Because they are on top still. Because that guy right there, Colt McCoy, is 2-1. He's hanging on to the lead in the division, in the conference, for the bye, the whole thing. If you don't have that guy, and all of a sudden you lose those 3 games because Kyler Murray is out, you know, that might be bad, all right? But I'm impressed with this system.
Yes.
Cliff Kingsbury does a heck of a job utilizing all of his talent. E-Hop's not even in there. So kudos to the Arizona Cardinals.
I love that. That's not easy, as you know, rolling into that with a team as good as the Cardinals are, because everyone's going to come. They're going to see Kyler Murray's out. Oh, it's going to – no. Colt McCoy said no. But I love the Philadelphia Eagles. I love what they're doing. I think they are too low. I think this team is a dominant run football team. Jalen Hurts is learning to win from the pocket, but at the same time keeps this dynamic ability to use his legs. And as the weather shifts and changes, this type of offense is going to play, and it's going to be able to carry over from week to week. And if you can play good defense and get dynamic plays like this from your quarterback as he grows in the passing game, you're going to be just fine. The other team that I like, I love the Indianapolis Colts, because that team as well, that transfers over, okay? Handing the football off, giving it to Jonathan Taylor, just letting him pound the rock consistently is fantastic. You do that, and then you play good defense. Your quarterback doesn't have to do that much. Carson Wentz makes some dynamic plays with your legs, make a couple throws to T.Y. Hilton and Michael Pittman and these guys, but defensively, they're playing great. They're sitting on routes, they're jumping plays, they're getting picks, tipping it to themselves. That's fantastic. I wouldn't even just go up and try and grab the thing. No, he's going to tip it to himself, but they're stopping the run up front with 4 guys, 6 guys sometimes. They're leaving the rest of those guys in coverage, making it tough for guys like Josh Allen and reading the routes really well. So I like Philly, I like the Colts, I like the Cardinals. So we'll see what happens, because that's, at the end of the day, this has been a crazy season. So we'll see what happens next week. But don't forget to catch us weekdays on Total Access. Money and DanHanzus, back to you.
Thank you, David. And let's get started there, because I believe I'm with David Carr. Explain yourself, DanHanzus.
Okay.
The Eagles at 17, just on the outside, you know, top 14 would mean you're in the playoff picture. They are, I believe, a half game back of the 7th spot in the playoffs in the NFC. Your thoughts on where Philadelphia is as it stands today?
Yeah, I think 17 is a good spot for them, because they are right there on the fringe right now, where they're announcing themselves as a team that is getting better as the season goes along. But I'm not prepared to say this is a playoff team right now, but they could be. And a big reason why is their running game is incredible. They are beating people up front in the offensive line. They're winning in the trenches. And I think it's notable that after the 40-29 win over the Saints, Nick Sirianni spoke glowingly of Jalen Hurts. He called him a special player who forces defense to play different. And that's like the first time I kind of remember, and certainly I could have missed it, where the Eagles, as a front-facing operation, were like, we like this guy a lot. We see this guy as a game changer. And I think Hurts has done a lot to kind of put his stamp on this organization moving forward with this run in recent weeks. I like the Eagles a lot.
Yeah, you know, when you talk about the run in recent weeks, Dan, and it coincides with this shift. I remember we were having a discussion about the Eagles, I think it was week 3, when they did not attempt to run the ball once in the first half. And here they are. They have nearly doubled. They have changed their identity, and they've changed it to fit their personnel. This is what it should look like when Jalen Hurts is your quarterback.
Sure.
He is so dynamic with the ball in his hands as a runner. 43.5 carries per game. Their run play percentage is 67% in 2021. Over 200 rush yards per game and nearly 2.5 rush touchdowns per game. They are second in the league in rush yards per game overall. They are tied for first with 17 rush touchdowns. We've had this conversation about the Ravens, and now we're going to have about the Eagles. You've got to prepare for something that is different, that you do not see. And I don't think it's a coincidence that when you look at the top of the rankings, and let's just say like over the last 3 weeks, teams that are running the ball, they're getting after it. The Patriots, the 49ers, the Eagles, these teams, the Bengals are running the heck out of it with Joe Mixon. That's what they did against the Raiders to get that victory. I think because other teams managed to zig, these teams that have zagged with this power running game are taking advantage of light boxes, because so many teams are playing too high, and they're taking advantage of speed at linebacker with these hybrids as opposed to bigger guys that can thump against the run. And man, it's working.
And not to be a cliche, but this is cold weather football. This is the type of football you want to play this time of year. Now, you need to be able to have balance because there'll be a time where the Eagles are going to fall behind.
Yeah.
They'll need to throw themselves back into a game. But this is how you dictate. This is how you win football in November and December.
Look, they're a half game back from the 7th spot in the Saints. I think they're playing better football than the Saints. Clearly, that was evidenced on the field this past week. So I think they are. It looks like a playoff team to me. Let's get to the Colts and a team that has won. I mean, look, they gave away 2 games. This could be an 8-game win streak had they not blown leads to the Titans and the Ravens. Your thoughts on the Colts and whether or not you have them too low at 12?
I think NFL Films and the people at HBO are thrilled right now.
Yeah, no kidding.
Because they have lucked into a team that's become one of the more intriguing teams in the NFL during this surge. From 0-3, from 1-4 to 6-5 now. Jonathan Taylor is an MVP candidate, and it's not one of those things like that a talking head will say in this time of year, oh yeah, he had a good game, so now he's an MVP. No. Look at what the MVP race is, and usually it's a quarterback race, but there's no quarterback having a special season right now, so you do have to open it up, and Jonathan Taylor has been so valuable. He's been the most valuable player to any team in the AFC during this run where he's just absolutely dominating the competition. So, yes, I think the Colts are a very interesting team to keep a track of, and they've been surging up this board.
And they're a half game back. They won the head-to-head against Buffalo. That could loom large if Buffalo continues to struggle in the playoff picture. You mentioned Jonathan Taylor, and the great thing about what he's been able to do, Dan, is that you're not putting the games on Carson Wentz. And we saw what happened in a couple of those games when he was, in fact, the centerpiece of this offense, and he threw them out of a game, out of a win against the Titans. And, man, does that loom large right now. Because this is the thing about the Colts. You look at the remaining schedule here. Bucs, Patriots, at Arizona, the number 1 team. I mean, and they have to be 3 games better. Remember, 3 games better than the Titans over 6 because they got swept in the regular season series.
I'll tell you what, it is an uphill climb. I am not ruling it out because you factor in the way the Colts are playing with the Titans and where they've been since Derrick Henry left the lineup. This absolutely is in play, and what a story that would be.
6-0 versus 3-3 is what they would need in order to get the division. But yes, they are one of the hottest teams in football, and because no quarterback has raised his hand, Jonathan Taylor, a very legitimate. We just, listen, power rankings, we manifest. We just asked this question last week about MVP, and here comes Jonathan Taylor to answer it.
This is chess. This is mental chess.
That's right.
Playing here.
When we return, we said it when the Chargers played the Browns, and now we said it after Sunday Night Football, one of the greatest contests. Maybe it will go down as the best regular season game of the season, a back-and-forth affair on Sunday Night Football. We'll get into the Steelers and the Chargers and where they're ranked when we return. Back on Power Rankings presented by the long-lasting power of Energizer. Who'd we miss? We like to put a spotlight on a few teams that maybe we have not discussed up to this point. You love the Vikings, Dan.
I do. I mean, they're 5-5, and I have them at number 10 in the power rankings because I think when the Vikings are on point, and they have been lately, they can beat anybody in the league. So, yes, I think the Vikings are a team that you can't necessarily trust because you don't know what happens next. And they got the Niners this week. That's a really good matchup. But look what they do with Kirk Cousins playing as well as he's ever played. Justin Jefferson changes that offense. I think he is. I agree. The best wide receiver in football. The Vikings are a team to reckon with. Like the Patriots, you just don't put a ceiling on them because you never know what could happen this season.
Hard to fathom, but Kirk Cousins MVP candidate, by the way.
They'll never give it to him.
But the numbers suggest perhaps that's the case.
Yeah.
We missed the Steelers, and we mentioned Sunday Night Football. I'll tell you what was evident to me. Man, T.J. Watt won the Defensive Player of the Year by not being out there. It is a completely different defense. Now, they didn't have Minkah Fitzpatrick either, and that's a huge deal, especially on a busted coverage late. But to me, it was all about T.J. Watt. There was no pressure. Cam Hayward did what he could. I mean, he managed to take a ball off the helmet that got intercepted. Here's the issue. Everybody was talking, oh, Ben, and the offense was back. No, they had scoring drives of 2 yards on a punt block, 11 yards on the interception, and 7 yards on the go-ahead field goal because of turnovers. It was so, and I'm showing you Justin Herbert here because it was so evident. You think about what Ben used to be, and he's a first-ballot Hall of Famer. I truly believe that. I don't think that's in question. But the arm strength. I mean, it's a precipitous drop for some of these guys when it comes to the end. And, man, when you saw Herbert and Ben out there could not have been a more drastic difference with the way they threw the ball.
It's so funny because I thought you were going somewhere else because I was also in the building watching that. And when you do get to see it up close, it's different. Watching how Justin Herbert can flee the pocket when he needs to.
And Ben can't do it.
And he had 90 rushing yards. I think the most ever by a Chargers quarterback. Big Ben, when the pocket collapses, it's over. And that's a big deal for an offense. When you don't have a quarterback that could turn negative plays into positive ones, it just makes it that much harder for Pittsburgh.
Yeah, and here is the AFC playoff picture. You see how tight it is. With that win, Chargers advance to the second wild card spot. And remember, it's only a half game back of the Chiefs, who are on the bye, and they already won at Arrowhead. So if they get a win in Denver this week, they will replace the Chiefs as the current leader of the AFC West. That's how tight it is. I mean, it is ridiculous what is going on.
I mean, the Buffalo Bills are this close, money, to the in the hunt category.
Right.
No one wants to be there. Buffalo Bills fans never thought that could be happening here.
Yeah, and speaking of those Chargers, I'll just point out one of the things that jumped out to me, and I know you were at the game as well, Dan, and I'm sure you saw it, but look, this team was just ravaged for its rush defense. They were down 3 starting defensive linemen. They had to call up 2 practice squad guys and a player that they just signed a week ago, and they made big plays. Now, the offense helped them out. This was on the last drive. Kyler Fackrell and Joey Bosa with back-to-back sacks to all but end this game. There they are. The pass rush started to come alive, but you also had the interior of that line. Braden Fajoko, Joe Gaziano. I mean, names that you wouldn't recognize.
Hey, Joe Gaziano.
Forrest Merrill, all making plays to limit what Najee Harris was able to do, and they turned it into a one-dimensional offense.
And it should be said, like, the Chargers is going to Charger, and that felt like one of those Chargers losses that you just can't imagine any other team suffering. And Justin Herbert, who is a savage in the pocket, said, no, that's not happening here.
Right.
I will take this team, put them on my back, get a W. 40,000 people waving yellow flags from Pennsylvania, and he said, go home. This is not the same Chargers anymore.
Don't forget about Austin Eckler. 4 touchdowns.
Absolutely.
Just a ridiculous weapon in the backfield.
The fact that I have them outside the top 10, I don't totally trust them still on either side of the ball, but they're just fun to watch, and it's a good team to be the voice of.
At Denver, at Cincinnati, 2 huge games for them if they're going to stay in this playoff race. All right. Speed to power. That's what we're converting here. We are going to run through 4 more teams. Let's get 2 minutes on the clock.
Oh, I like this.
Give me a clock.
Bang me at the clock.
2 minutes on the clock.
Bang
all right, and we're off. Browns, number 14.
Ugh.
Why number 14?
Because they are a middling team. They barely were able to beat the Lions on Sunday, and Baker Mayfield is a problem in that lineup. And then walking off the field and not doing the media brings more attention to yourself. Sometimes I don't understand if he quite gets it. So I think it's in play. Money that Case Keenum could be a starting quarterback for this team. Baker's beat up and playing terribly. I'll tee you up on the 49ers.
Love what they're doing. Look, Deebo Samuel, if you don't trust your running backs, if Trey Sermon didn't hit when you drafted him, let's get creative. Nobody gets more creative than Kyle Shanahan, and he figured something out against a Jaguar defense that had been a little frisky the last couple weeks, and he used Deebo Samuel as his lead rusher. Guy had 8 carries, so that's their identity. Run the ball, punish teams physically. This is a huge one. Their next game against the Vikings is they are just outside the look. These are 2 teams that I think are 5-5 if I remember right now. Yes. So this is a big head-to-head, and we're going to find out whether or not the 49ers have figured out what was ailing them over that 6-game stretch where they went 1-5. But I like what they're doing. This is their identity. Keep it rolling. All right, to you, the Saints.
Saints. Listen, the Trevor Siemian thing, it's not a stunner, but this is a problem. In the stats, the box score doesn't tell the story of this game because he filled it up after the game was out of doubt, was no longer in doubt. But when you take Alvin Kamara off the field, and Mark Ingram has been a nice pickup that's given them some depth there, they're just such an ordinary team. And again, just like with the Browns, I'm going to say it again here now. Taysom Hill, who just got another super weird contract extension, he might have to enter the lineup to give this team a spark because it needs it. Close us out with the Seattle Seahawks.
That's what I got to say about the Seahawks. Let's not forget. When you trade 2 ones for a safety that has struggled in coverage his entire career, that is a lot to give up. They got creative with him last year, and he got his sacks. But, man, that's a top 5 pick right now for the Jets. They're going to have 2 in the top 5. The Seahawks, done. I believe, as Michael Irvin does on game day morning, forking them is what I would do with the Seahawks moving forward. All right. Sorry.
Broken offense.
When we return.
Double buzzer.
Double buzzer for this guy, because I can't. I just love hearing my own voice.
Double buzzer for Tony Spoons over here.
That's right. You're absolutely wrong. Kudos for having the gumption. I like a gumption.
That's good.
To be this wrong on a public platform.
I respect that. That's
Tony
a good tweet.
Spoon's got a cat as his avatar, you weirdo.
It's a good tweet.
More of that when we return. Oh, come on. That was just mean. How about you play NFL Knockout?
Okay.
Free-to-play game presented by Caesars Sportsbook. Answer 15 questions about the Seahawks-Washington football team game, and you could win exclusive prizes, including a VIP package to this year's Super Bowl 56 in Los Angeles. All you got to do is visit NFL.com/knockout.
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah.
People comment. Hey, that's premature horning. No premature horning. Here we go. This is an opportunity for you, the viewer, the fan, to engage with Dan like Matt Mosley. Oh, yeah, let's put the Bills ahead of the Titans because they lost the head-to-head and were blown out by a team the Titans beat twice. That makes plenty of sense.
All right, Matt, you don't get a clown nose because I understand your frustration as a Titans fan, but you're taking it out on me when you should be taking it out on your team that just got beat by the Texans. By all this logic you're laying out, what about the fact that the Texans, who were number 32 last week on an 8-game losing streak, went into your house and embarrassed you? That's the problem. That's why they dropped below the Bills.
Well, and I would quickly add, all of the games he's referencing had Derrick Henry on the field.
That seems to matter.
Yes.
Actually, you know what?
Things have
Take
changed.
your horn. Take your nose.
Take your nose. Here we go. Daps and pounds. Daps and pounds. Dap, 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 daps and pounds. Vikings at 10. Ravens behind 3 teams they beat already. Might be the worst ranking out there.
Yes.
Fair point.
That's what I look for, right? Because I want to separate myself from the other power rankings. And if you're saying it's the worst one out there, it's separated. That's fine with me. Listen, I get it. I hardly ever drop a team 3 spots after a win. Maybe a clerical error. But at the same time, know this, that the Ravens, I have the Ravens ahead of the Browns, ahead of the Bengals, 13, 14, 15. They all deserve to be together in that muddled middle because the AFC North has been a disappointment this year, and you know it.
One more. You ready?
Sure.
You from
poor
Ravens
fan.
Can I get one of the noses?
Yeah. Poor
like
Ravens fans.
I always like getting my Kelly leaf. Ready? Poof.
Ooh, that was a good one.
Man, that's good.
Calm down. We don't need name calling.
Fair point.
Yeah, it is what it is. The Ravens are
we pedal name calling.
They're okay.
When we return, it is perhaps the worst quarterback performance in the history of the NFL. I'm not exaggerating. I'm going to share with you.
Football.
I am going to share with you what very well may have happened this past week. Next. Power Rankings, presented by the long-lasting power of Energizer Challenge Flags. We bid you farewell with this. What do we have, Dan?
All right, I want the super teams, the super powers. Show yourselves. I don't like it. There's too much chaos in our league right now. I like when there's some teams that are above the rest, then you can look forward to the end of January. And oh my gosh, we're going to see these teams against each other. Bills, Packers, Bucks, Chiefs, Cowboys, Rams. Where are you? Rise up down the stretch.
You're poo-pooing parity, which is what our league is built on. Here is my challenge flag. You ready? Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't start Tim Boyle.
Hit me.
This very well may have been the worst quarterback performance in the history of the NFL. Dan, he attempted 23 passes for 77 yards. You want to put that in perspective? Mac Jones is conservative, 23 attempts, 198 yards, 21 attempts, 221. The guy threw 1 touchdown and 13 picks in college, and he started an NFL game. What's going on?
Rise up, blow hard.
Bye.